Hey, ambitious dentist, welcome to Start Your Dental Practice, the show for existing and aspiring dentists to take your dental practice to the highest possible level. I'm your host, Jonathan Van Horn, CPA and ABV, founder of dentistmetrics.com. In every episode, we aim to demystify the how to start a dental practice problem by bringing on world-class dentists, influencers, and consultants in the dental industry to pick their brain about how to get past the barriers involved from going from no practice to being a practice owner to owning your own successful dental practice. So today's show features Jared Rodman of Weave Software. You're going to learn more about him in a minute, but first, here are a few things you're going to hear about today. We're going to learn about the number one reason why patients rebook with your office. We're going to learn what the golden rule of sales is and why it's so important to your dental practice. We're going to learn the first thing you need to know if you want to strengthen your customer's experience and how to get a 30% increase in rescheduling overdue patients. So at the end of the episode, I've collected a few additional tools I see most practices overlooking but need to have and put into an easy to implement download. So be sure to listen all the way through this entire interview to get access to that. So now, on to today's guest interview with Jared Rodman. Dentist, this is Jonathan Van Horn, CPA, ABV, founder of dentistmetrics.com, and your host today. Today I have with us Jared Rodman with Weave Software. Jared, thanks for coming on with us today.
Hey, thank you for inviting me. Appreciate it.
Yeah, so Jared is the COO, is that correct, of Weave Software, the Chief Operating Officer for everyone out there?
Yeah, so COO, co-founder. I've been here since day 32, back in 2008 when we started. So yeah, I've kind of gone through the whole gamut. It's fun. It's been a blast.
So if everyone is a little confused on what a chief operating officer is, we know we don't have very many of those in the dental practices out there. The chief operating officer, co-founder, things like that. It's basically if things break, he's the one that's good just to make sure that they get put back together again. Is that an accurate statement?
Yeah. So, my goal is to help support Brandon, my brother. He's our CEO and co-founder as well, and really make any vision that is set come to life on the operational side. So whether it's internally in our company or more so on the client-facing side, I just want to make sure our clients are happy and taken care of. And so that goes from onboarding all the way through support, success, account management, really anything that does affect the customer post-sale. That's what I do.
Right. So tell us a little bit about Weave Software and what it is.
So do you want me to go a little bit into the history or just in general where we are today? What's best?
Yeah, we can go ahead and go to the history. I was just going to kind of get the synopsis out there, and then we can go into that.
I'll give you the 60-second kind of elevator pitch, so to speak, help you understand where we are today. So what we do is we help dental offices provide the best possible experience for their customers. And the way we do that is through technology. We are a VoIP phone provider, so we come in and replace whoever you guys currently use, such as AT&T, Comcast, CenturyLink, your basic landlines. What we do is we outfit you with a VoIP phone system, comes with all the bells and whistles, and the unique part is we integrate it into your dental software. The reason that's helpful is when your front desk staff or doctor, what have you, is communicating with the customer, we want you to be able to know immediately who they are and treat them like they're your preferred customer. So if, let's say, Jonathan were calling into your dental office, you could right away know immediately it's a patient of record. When they start asking questions, say, oh yeah, no problem, Jonathan, let me pull up your info. And it looks like here, you don't have to put them on hold. You don't have to forget certain tasks, things like that. So the idea is very simple. The name Weave, we weave together your communication, so calling, texting, emailing, with your data. So that's in a hopefully brief synopsis what we do.
That's great. That's great. But shame on you guys for picking on those small companies of AT&T and Comcast to be taken away. So tell me about Weave Software and how you guys got started. How we got to today.
So it started back in actually 7 years now. It was towards the end of August, beginning of September of 2008. So I'll explain a little bit the history with Brandon. And the reason this will be helpful is you guys can understand kind of our focus, our trajectory, where we're going. So Brandon is a lot of experience in marketing and sales, was very, very successful on that end. And as he was looking to transition, in school, he had explored being a dentist, and our mom is actually a dental hygienist. So we had some experience in that. And he had heard through a friend of a friend, someone that had been on maternity leave as an office manager in a dental office and was calling from home to schedule overdue patients for them. And both Brandon and I had worked in previous venture together and had used a software that immediately the lights clicked for him, and he was like, we could use the software and coordinate with dental offices to schedule their patients for them. Kind of like the sixth man on a basketball team. You come in, help take care of it, and be that light, that extra help. And so what we did in 2008, I came on a month after, starting to get sales and basically just get the idea and concept out there that, hey, we can remote into your computer after hours and schedule your patients for you. And that was a great first step. It helped us get into the mindset of what helps a dental office be successful. So from 2008 till about mid to end of 2011, we were solely focused on that service. Again, just in the evening and on Saturday mornings, we would call and schedule patients. And what we found was really, really interesting is there'd be a pretty broad spectrum from really easy to call for. They loved the office too. It was so difficult. We literally could not schedule any patients. And when you would talk with the patients, the number one factor was, I like them. They get me. They know me. They're my office. Further down the list was the quality of treatment. You guys did a great inclusion on, blah, blah, blah. That stuff matters, don't get me wrong. But human nature is pretty simplistic. It's all built around, hey, I know them, they know me, and I'm happy. And so what we looked at was that divide. What was causing offices to be able to connect better? A lot of times it was the front desk staff. It was those people that were connecting well and, going from there. So as far as where we went from there, our whole focus and goal was we were looking to capitalize and provide some tools to help them out. And that's what evolved into the technology side. Brandon and I, and this was around 2012, when we built a prototype and were able to launch it in a kind of alpha beta form. We had a couple offices here in Utah. They were saints. Amazing. They allowed us to go in and install the product. And again, the whole central focus was, hey, we're coming in to help foster that relationship. We're going to give you the information you need when you need it, so that your patients will be like, oh my gosh, they get me, they know me. So that's kind of a little bit how it evolved from the scheduling service through to the software. The software, we, of course, did not know how hard a phone system would be to create. And so it was evolutionary. Finally got to the point that we were able to connect with some big technology firms, a group called Y Combinator in 2014, and get some funding and really hit the market harder and improve our product. And so that's what's carried us through to today. Now we have several new iterations, new feature sets, things like that. We've really hammered down on text messaging, so you can text real time with your customers, that kind of thing. So
that was a great synopsis of the history of Weave. And just so everyone knows, a lot in the dental industry aren't going to understand this. You kind of brushed over it, that you went into this group called Y Combinator. And that is actually a really big deal. So to the people out there listening, a kind of a good way to explain that would be, if you know what Shark Tank is, Shark Tank is these people coming on to pitch their business to be bought into from these sharks that are going to help them grow. And if you see these things that go after the tank, where the big business owners help the little guys out to get bigger, that is a very strange parallel. It's easy to explain it in that right, but what Y Combinator is it is a like an incubator type business exponential growth company that helps companies grow with a lot of strength behind it. The people that are ahead of that have helped the biggest software companies in the world grow. So if they actually have allowed Weave to join in, that means that they really believe in what Weave is doing. And there's a lot of these incubators out there, and Y Combinator is widely regarded as one of the top, if not the most prestigious one to get into. So I'm tooting your horn a little bit here, but that's a big deal.
It's very, very humbling. So you're right in the sense, they are people that have been in the industry. So this is a company based out of the Bay Area in San Francisco that you have previous execs from Google and all these different companies, literally creator of Gmail, Yahoo Store. I mean, they know what they're doing, and they're able to help coach and mentor. It's kind of like a startup school in that regard. You can equate it to Harvard Business School, et cetera. The acceptance rate is incredibly difficult to get into. We were very, very fortunate. And so, yes, it helps give you that boost and connect you also to the right people. And so we have been very humbled and so appreciative of everything they've given us, very much.
So let's pull back to the 2008 when you're doing the phone call centers to be able to help people do the scheduling after hours and in the morning. It's funny, I actually in college worked for a similar company selling flowers. So you talk about that personal relationship that is there whenever people call in. Sometimes it works for some practices and not for others. What we found when I was selling flowers is, I have this little bit of a Southern draw. I'm a little bit monotone sometimes. I can go up and down sometimes, but the people would call and they'd have like this thick Jersey accent, and they'd be like, who the heck is this guy on the phone? He does not live here. And why are they answering the phone at 10 o'clock at night? It's obviously not somebody there. And so they start giving us these very personal orders, because, you're talking about getting flowers for a funeral, or like in my case, you're getting flowers because you messed up with your wife or something like that. You did something that needs to be apologized for. So it's a very personal relationship. So they don't believe whenever you say, look, yes, no, I'm not there, but we're going to make sure it happens and things like that. And those things just happen. Right. So, it's a funny thing that I actually have a little bit of experience in that world. So, does that still exist today?
It does. So
Okay.
we haven't put really any focus onto it. We at one point had well over 100 offices across the U.S. that we were calling for. And it's a great service. From a business perspective, we were looking at how could we grow, and Brandon is very, very ambitious. I myself as well. But the reality with that product was, working with dental offices, the better job we did, the faster we worked ourselves out of the business. And what I mean by that is each dental office has usually a certain number of customers that are overdue for a cleaning and checkup. So we would pull those lists, we would call through, and we could schedule a lot of people very quickly. But then they would say, okay, thanks for the help, see ya, and they would meet us. And so from a business perspective, you're always struggling. It's an uphill battle trying to build your business. And so we wanted to look for a way that we could provide the tools, which evolved into the phone system. But some of the essentials we learned, I mean, it's easy. When you're talking about selling flowers, that's when you talk about sales, which I have background in, so does Brandon, it's relationships. They always have your keys. Build a relationship of trust. If you can build a relationship of trust, it gets into what's called the golden rule of sales. People buy things from those people they know, like, and trust. And so if you can capitalize that in your practice, your opportunity for success increases tenfold, if not more. And so that's kind of what we realized in the scheduling, and what evolved and really snowballed into the VoIP phone system is it's simple. We'll help connect the dots. And we've had a lot of offices reach out for coaching, mentoring, things like that. And we're always happy to help. But it can be easy. It can be easy as long as you have the right tools.
So you went from helping people fish, or you went from fishing for people to teaching them how to fish by giving them the tools to do the same things that you're currently doing. So whenever you were going through this and you were having those relationships with people, you were talking to the practice owners, and some of it would work, some it wouldn't. Why do you feel that some of those practices were having problems building those relationships with the patients?
Sometimes it's staffing, it's focus, personality types. There's a lot of factors that can come into play. And my feeling on it is first thing you can really do is hire correctly. So I try to look at it from my perspective. If I were a dentist finishing up school and I was thinking, oh gosh, I'm doing my own thing. And that's kind of my personality type. I'd be like, well, I could go work for somebody. No, I'm going to jump in head first. So whatever your scenario, to think that you can do everything yourself is good to think yourself, but you need to be cognizant of other people's what I call superpowers. So when we're hiring here at Weave, I always look to replace myself with somebody smarter and better at a specific task, kind of hyper focus. And so with the front desk staff, if we draw a correlation there, if I were a dentist, I'd be looking to bring on an office manager and front desk staff that exhibits those skills that are unparalleled when it comes to communicating. Because they're the very first interaction, and I'd say 99% of the time, the last interaction when a patient comes in. Also on the phone, et cetera, what have you. It's about hiring correctly, making sure that they're going to be able to fulfill those roles, and also about the employer, so you, the dentist, providing the right tools to them. And so that's my feeling on it is seeing that spectrum of good and bad dental offices. Nothing against people hiring friends, family, or the convenient hire, et cetera, but you have to own the business as your baby. It is yours. Nobody's going to come in and tell you otherwise unless you ask for it. But make sure you hire smart. So
absolutely, yeah. Hiring is a difficult situation for a lot of people. Like you said, there's the issue of hiring friends and family, and what always happens, and I'm sure that things have came up between your brother and you where you probably disagree on one thing or the other, and
no, we never disagree.
Right. And then it always comes back to, well, we can argue and fight, but we're still brothers at the end of the day. In a real small business, just in a tech company, those are, especially if you get into smaller communities, it can be really difficult conversations to have with those uncomfortable conversations with employees about them doing something well or not doing it well. And then things spill over for drama in the front office and things like that. So I absolutely sign off on what you're saying that, hiring is definitely a paramount, incredibly important aspect of any dental practice owner's journey. So whenever, we talk a lot with, or we have a lot of people listening that are going to be starting a practice in the next year or two. We've talked about a little bit about, the building the fact that it's important to build a relationship with your patients. It's important to hire based off of the knowledge that you're going to have to need that person there to be able to make that relationship happen as well, because they are going to be the front office person. Have you had any success stories of people being able to go from a place of not having that strength or core competency to being able to build that up?
Yeah, so a couple things on this. First, I wanted to mention one thing that's kind of helped us with the hiring process. If anybody wants to read a good book, it's called The Sales Acceleration Formula. I'll give you like a 5-second synopsis. It's a guy that he's an engineer by trade, works at a company called HubSpot, and he sets up a quantifiable method of how to hire, how to set up and know who to hire for your business. Anyway, just wanted to mention that real quick. It's a great help. All of us here at Weave totally loved reading it, and it might not be for everyone, but worth a shot. So getting into from what I understood, you said, Jonathan, people being able to evolve and fit into a situation. I think it's doable. I think we all inherently as humans want to improve and become better people. But there also is that aspect of people are who they are. They can only stretch so far before the elastic will go back to their core. If that makes sense. And what I mean by that is hiring correctly also in some ways means firing correctly and knowing when to do that. When you're working with an employee, I always say it's all about the employer and employee relationship. Hiring correctly, setting expectations, and then being the person to work with them and get them to excel and succeed. Now, in the event that it's somebody, you have a couple of reasons. It's either a bad hire or they decide later they don't want to perform a duty. But most everything else can be learned. So communication skills, it's not like we're playing basketball and I'm saying, hey, Jonathan, go dunk on that 10-foot hoop. And, whether that is something you can or can't do, I don't know. But it's not a physical limitation per se. It's usually emotional. It's a mental game that you have to play with yourself. And everybody, from my perspective, can learn some of the essential sales skills. So being able to work well with people, it can be learned for sure, but at what end of that spectrum? How hard do you have to push? And in stressful situations, how hard will they snap back and kind of implode and cause a problem, if that makes sense. But as far as coaching, training, things like that, yeah, definitely. My recommendation always when working with people on that is to, don't want this to come across as weird, but come from a place of love, that you care. It's never a top-down, hey, you need to be doing this kind of thing, but more, hey, I noticed you've been doing a really good job with this. We're kind of having a problem here, but I have a lot of hope, and I think things are going to go really well. Here's where I'd like things to be. How can I help you to get there? And then making sure you give them those tools, whether it's educational or what have you, that will help them. And so that good, bad, good is, I'll paraphrase and say it in a good way, it's called a crap sandwich, where you're essentially, you don't want people to always feel like they're doing a bad job, because that is rarely the case. If that is the case, then you hired poorly. But people can improve, and so always be cognizant of their emotional state and helping them get where they need to be. So just do your best to work with them. That's my recommendation. So it's doable. Good, bad, ugly. I mean, I've seen it all. And if you don't address it, it bleeds into the patients for sure. And you'll see your numbers, schedule, your people scheduling for recall, what have you, drop, and your business drop. So,
absolutely. I always tell people, clients of mine, we do more than just CPA services. We also talk to people monthly about, business performance and coach them on just general business philosophies and things like that. The way I tell people to handle employees and in situations, you actually touched on it. It says you have to do three things with an employee. You have to, number one, you have to set an expectation. Number two, you have to hold them accountable. And number three, you have to be consistent in that. So that you have to be able to, if you set an expectation of, say, anytime you have, for a hygienist, if the hygienist has had a cancellation for an hour and they don't have an hour's book time, then their expectation is that they need to call 10 patients to try and get somebody reactivated on the back end somewhere else or something like that. And then on top of that, they need to convert 2 of those into appointments out of that 10. And that is the expectation that we meet. You have to hold them accountable, so they have to actually report that back to you in some manner. It's not micromanagement. It's just having a communication, whether that's with you, the owner, or with the office manager or a hygiene team leader, whomever that may be. Then you have to be consistent with that. So if they just don't do it, you have to be consistent in telling them that this is an important part of your job. It's an important part of the details of your job, and it helps the practice grow and provide a better work environment for Susie in the front, Sally as the office manager, and you as the hygienist. So those are the 3 things that I do for my business philosophy, just to add that in there. But so let's talk about Weave for a bit and talk about how Weave helps build that relationship specifically. I've had a chance to demo it, and I've used it quite a bit. I refer clients over to that.
Cool.
So talk a little bit more about it.
Yeah, so getting into, and you're talking about just specifically day-to-day use, software, that kind of thing. Is that correct?
Well, Weave specifically.
Yeah, so when looking at the software, again, when we come in, we provide new hardware and phones. And that in itself is kind of like a technological facelift for most offices. Most offices haven't updated their phone hardware for, we've had some 30 years. Used to be a white phone. Now it's like a weird brown color. But that's one of the standards, that's one of our big focuses is it's primary mode of communication right now. Things are changing a little bit into text messaging and what have you, but today phones, they're essential. And so we replace that. And we get staff trained on it to make sure it works well for them. The really bread and butter, though, is that software. So I definitely check us out, getweave.com. We have demos. You can sign up, take a look. But the whole focus is very straightforward. It's a companion software. So whether you're on Dentrix, EagleSoft, SoftDent, Practice, what have you, you'd have your practice management system open on your computer screen like normal. And you'd have, for us, you'd have your VoIP phone next to you. They're awesome phones. Here's an example of one right here. Very clean, simple. We use the best of the best. It's not cheap for us, but it's worth it. And so the software is, as I said, a companion, and it sits on the side. You can minimize it, do whatever you want. And the whole thing is when a call comes in, what's going to happen is we're going to send the call to you as the phone provider, because we provide those local and long distance calls. But what it's also going to do is pull up that patient in the software. And what that allows you to do is you'll know immediately, oh, this is the Johnson household calling, or this is a new patient. Their record's not pulling up. It says unknown. And so I can out the gate know how to interact. And as I actually start the call, it's going to identify things that need to be done. So as I mentioned, communicating and improving upon that, it's all contextual. If I'm on a call, I want to know, okay, these are the things that need to be done. Now, if I have to put them on hold for 3 minutes, or while I look up their next appointment and try to get some other data real quick, come back, and then at the end of the call, I'm like, oh, I forgot to schedule their kids. They're overdue. I try to call back, nobody answers. And it's those opportunities that we are going to identify immediately for you. So the cool thing is you're paying somebody for phones. We come in, we actually give you the hardware. We're not concerned about that. We do have we're not total idiots. I mean, within a 36-month period, if you were to cancel, we do want the hardware back. So we're not at a loss, but we're happy to give that to you to alleviate your costs. In the past, people would have to drop $2,000 to $3,000 to get the hardware. And it was really difficult, especially if you're starting a business or it's not your number one focus. We wanted to remove the barrier and get it in, and then the tool is the part that will help you guys see a return on your investment. So we usually see on the overdue appointment side, because I'll mention briefly the things that pull up for you. When I'm on a call, it's going to tell me first if there's any good conversational stuff. I can put notes in there that there's a dog they have, its name's Samson, what have you. But we're also going to identify things like birthdays. So if I know the spouse has a birthday coming up, I can actually say, hey, make sure you say happy birthday to Sandy. It's showing it's her birthday tomorrow, kind of thing. Those extra little things, kind of the cherry on top that makes people feel warm and fuzzy. So building the relationship. Some of the other things are data. So if they're missing an email or a cell phone number, that kind of stuff. Our new update is actually going to be including some of the prompts to gather more data. But also into the revenue generating opportunities. You need to schedule these people for a cleaning and checkup. They still owe you money from their last appointment. Things that I could put them on a hold and go look up, but 99% of the time we don't take that and do it, or we forget, or we miss something. And so that's the whole purpose of Weave, is to come in as your basic utility, replace your existing cost that you're paying somebody, but help you do so much more. We usually see an increase about 30% on overdue scheduled appointments just by using our system. And so the idea of paying AT&T X number of dollars, average phone bill is about $280 a month. Why pay them when you can pay us and make more money? So that's what we're all about, is giving you better tools. Technology is amazing. We have it with us every day in our pockets, cell phones. I argue very few of you don't have cell phones. But the dental industry is hungry for that. I like to say, and this is a rough guesstimate, but it's at least 10 to 15 years behind as far as the tech side goes. And we're coming in trying to breathe life into it with, first of all, effective software, but also cool. We feel like our design and where we're going with it is awesome. We're just launching a mobile, and the mobile side of it is going to kind of buck the trend. We're going to make it really easy for you, obviously HIPAA and everything compliant, for you to get the info when you want it. And so that's where we're going, and we love feedback. So as long as our users keep sending stuff through and letting us know what they need, we're going to keep building and build a very, very successful business for everybody. So
you said you had a 30% increase. Is that 30% increase in, 30% decrease in appointments that were canceled? I didn't catch what the...
No, it is. So overdue appointments, overdue patients, I should say. So people that have a pending, they're overdue by a day or so they should have been in 3 days ago for their 6-month cleaning and checkup. Those patients tend to get missed. You may try to call them, and that was the whole essence of the recall service, calling in the evenings. You try to get them during the day, they're busy, they're at work, they're, what have you. We call in the evening and schedule them. Same with our software is while you're on the phone and you have that opportunity, we want you to capitalize, and that's why we list for you, schedule these patients. They need to be scheduled as well. And so we see a 30% increase in scheduling those types of appointments. And so those basically that you didn't have being scheduled. And so it's an increase in revenue considerably, and our system pays for itself. If I don't know the exact ROI to date. It depends on how much the office is billing for the recall, things like that. But I know it's, from what we've seen, it's a minimum 10 to 1 plus.
There are a lot of things I like about your software and product. Since it's connected to the internet, a lot of people have the objection or worry that if the internet goes down, so do their phones. What are your thoughts on that, and what do you tell your customers of how you're addressing that issue? It's a pretty common concern from a consensus of the people I talk to.
It's a great question. So just briefly, if you go back to the history of voice over internet protocol, so that's what VoIP stands for. I always say voice over internet phones, it's easier. Going back, most of us have heard of the company Vonage. Vonage launched, I think, in the late 90s and got a little more push in the early 2000s, but they got a lot of flack. And the big reason was internet wasn't where it needed to be. Not only speeds, but the stability. You look at home internet. I remember back those days, my family had dial-up, and then lo and behold, we got DSL internet. And so things have evolved since. Now we have, most areas have cable internet, and you have a lot that are getting fiber, such as Verizon Fios and Google Fiber, et cetera. So us as a nation, it's progressing. And so a lot of these technologies, it's all about the timing. And that's what's been great about us is we've come into the market at a time where VoIP is really starting to take off. There's been a lot of groups talking about the benefits of VoIP. And yes, there is that overall and really overwhelming fear of what if? What if my internet goes down? What if there's a problem? What happens? So we've actually been addressing that because we don't like that problem either. I mean, let's be honest. Does anybody want to go without phones? Heck no. I mean, you feel like you're flying blind. And because it's the lifeblood, not only for you guys, but also our company, we have built in what are called backups, redundancies, things like that. And one of our biggest ones that we're able to provide our users, in the event that your internet goes down on your side, we actually have a mobile software now, which, again, your mobile runs over different frequency over cellular as opposed to your internet. Now, you can in your office set up your phone to pull from your Wi-Fi, things like that. But in the event that there's nothing working internally in your office, you can actually still receive calls through our Weave app on your mobile. And that's one of those things that I don't know of any other VoIP providers that have set up that kind of backup, but it allows you in those instances that, oh crap, what's going on? Everything's down. Oh wait, I have my phone. Oh, it's buzzing. Yep, there's a customer and I can answer. It all runs over your work line. It's not going to use up cellular minutes or anything along those lines. And also, if you dial out from it, it's going to be like you're dialing from your office. And so there are other methods. I mean, we could get really technological and talk about failovers, things like that on your router. There's IT groups that are amazing at doing this. But our simple solution was something that we're all familiar with, mobile. Why not? And so for those that have that fear, feel free to talk to us. I mean, we're very, very transparent. We'll actually test your network and ask a lot of questions before we set anybody up. We're going to make sure you're going to have a good experience. Our service, we're not a normal phone / software company. It's all month to month. You pay us because you like us and it works well. And so in the event that it didn't work out, it's in our best interest to do that ahead of time instead of us sending phones, training you guys, all that. And so we'll vet it, make sure it's a good setup, and then get you going. In the event your on-site internet goes down, go to our mobile, and you guys should be good. So that's kind of what we have done to address that, because there's always a way. We have our CTO, Clint. He's MacGyver when it comes to technology. There's always a way. Sometimes on the back end and how it's all programmed, it doesn't look as pretty, but he makes it happen. And so with our amazing staff of people, you can always trust that we'll find a way to make sure you're happy and taken care of. So hopefully that kind of addresses that concern for you.
I believe I read that you can have different phone lines to track your campaigns within Weave. So if people are calling in from different phone numbers, you can have an additional line added to Weave. And Weave's pretty robust as far as that goes. How does that work?
And you can handle unlimited and inbound, outbound calls. I mean, there's no limit to it. That sometimes overwhelms people because they were used to only having to deal with one call at a time, and now they have 3 patients calling in, and they're able to, either multiple people or multitask, et cetera. But when getting into the marketing side, yeah, you can purchase as many additional numbers as you want. The first 3 we include for free. Anything beyond that, for whether marketing or personal number usage, is $5 per number per month. It's not bad. Market standard is usually around $30 for it if you go with just any old provider. So for us, we're not looking to make money off that. We want to help provide it to you. So you can put that number on a billboard, and then you can look, actually with our new iteration of the software and our mobile, we have a reports app that will show you how many calls did I get on that phone number over the course of this time. Also, how many calls am I getting in open hours versus closed hours? It's going to give you a lot of these metrics to understand your business from a high level. And so as you're kind of hinting at, we're not just about the phones, we're not just about texting, although those are our key features, but also, again, listening to our users. We're always wanting to make sure we're cutting edge, so the reports and metrics of marketing, getting eventually into benchmarking so people know how they're doing, different stuff like that.
I really like it. I've tested it. I recommend it to most of my clients. There's sometimes I don't, but most of the time I do. If listeners would like to learn more about Weave software, should they email you, or where should we send them to?
Take it for what it is. But yeah, I'm happy to help, and feel free to email through.
A special thanks to Jerry for coming on the show with us today. Again, just like the Trevor Maurer interview, I want to end this interview saying that this was not a paid advertisement. I was not I've not received any compensation from this interview. I only like to showcase these softwares that I think are really interesting and a little bit different, and Weave definitely stands alone in its software. So that's the reason I wanted to get Jared on today to talk a little bit about about Weave's software. So, as you know, having the right technology in place in your office is absolutely critical. I feel like Weave is a great little tool for that. In today's bonus, I'm going to give you a couple more tools that I think are really good to have in dental practices today. So if to get that list, simply text practice to 33444. That's practice to 33444 and startyourdentalpractice.com/bonus if you're outside of the US. And in this bonus, I'm going to give you 2 or 3 really great resources to increase the quality of the phone calls that your staff is doing, as well as increase your exposure to those patients. So have a great day. Thanks, guys. So that's it for today's episode, but that doesn't mean that the learning and implementation have to stop there. I've created a free report called The 15 Numbers That Will Make or Break Your Dental Practice. This report has been downloaded over 1,000 times by dental professionals. So if you want your free copy of this report that's going to outline what the most important numbers are in any dental practice, and it also includes how to look at your numbers, how to set goals, has a whole slew of really important information that is the culmination of all of my experience as a dental CPA, then just go to startyourdentalpractice.com/free gift. That is startyourdentalpractice.com/free gift. And so that's it for today, Ambitious Dentist. Again, I'm Jonathan Van Horn, CPA and ABV. I'll see you next week with another world-class practice owner or consultant that will help you start your very own dental practice. Thank you guys so much for being a part of the Start Your Dental Practice community. If you enjoyed today's episode, please do me a favor and go to startyourdentalpractice.com/iTunes to leave your honest feedback and review on iTunes. It's going to help me create a better experience, a better show, a better podcast for you, the ambitious dentist. Your feedback really does help, regardless if you like the show today or not. If you didn't like the show, let me know, because it's going to help me create a better show and podcast for you. Lastly, if you know of anybody that would benefit from today's episode and today's content, today's guest, please feel free to share with them on social media or through email.